Welcome to Jersey Reads the Classics, an audiobook podcast delving into the finest works of our literary masters. Unfortunately, it's read by this woman.
What the hell? Who cares? Let's go on an adventure.
Hello, and welcome back to Jersey Reads the Classics with me, your host, Rosie D. Candia. So with no further ado, let's get back to Peter Pan. We're on chapter 14, The Pirate Ship. Ha-ha! One green light squinting over Kidd's Creek, which is near the mouth of the Pirate River, marked with a brig, the Jolly Roger, lay low in the water, a rakish-looking craft foul to the hull, every beam in her detestable like ground strewn with mangled feathers. My goodness, definitely don't want to be on the Jolly Roger. Oh, makes me think of a Jolly Rancher. I love Jolly Ranchers. Watermelon's my favorite color, my favorite flavor. She was the cannibal of the seas, and scarce needed that watchful eye, for she floated immune in the horror of her name. She was wrapped in the blanket of night, through which no sound from her could have reached the shore. There was little sound, and none agreeable save the whir of the ship's sewing machine at which Smee sat, ever industrious and obliging, the essence of the commonplace. Pathetic Smee! I know not why he was so infinitely pathetic, unless it were because he was so pathetically unaware of it. That's true. People that don't know they're pathetic, they're even more pathetic because they don't know pathetic. But it's like if you play it up and you know you're kind of like meh, you know what I mean, like Toodles knows. It's kind of like, oh, he's in on the joke, but poor Smee's not in on the joke. He's just sad. But maybe it's better that way. Ignorance is bliss. But even strong men had to turn hastily from looking at him, and more than once on summer evenings he had touched the fount of Hook's tears and made it flow. Of this, as of almost everything else, Smee was quite unconscious. See? Ignorance is bliss. A few of the pirates leant over the bulwarks, drinking in the miasma of the night. Others sprawled by battles over games of dice and cards, and the exhausted four who had carried the little house lay prone on the deck, where even in their sleep they rolled skillfully to this side or that out of Hook's reach, lest he should claw them mechanically in passing. Hook trod the deck and thought, "Oh, man unfathomable!" It was his hour of triumph. Peter had been removed forever from his path, and all the other boys were in the brig about to walk the plank. It was his grimmest deed since the days when he had brought barbecue to heel, and knowing as we do how vain a tabernacle is man, could we be surprised had he now paced the deck unsteadily, bellied out by the winds of his success? But there was no elation in his gait, which kept pace with the action of his somber mind. Hook was profoundly dejected. The thing he's been waiting for, to kill Peter Pan, and he poisoned Peter Pan, so he thinks, and he's still not happy. Think about that. Yeah, we'll talk about that later on. He was often thus when communing with himself on board ship in the quietude of the night. It was because he was so terribly alone. This inscrutable man never felt more alone than when surrounded by his dogs. They were socially inferior to him. Do you ever feel that way, where you could be in a room full of people and you don't connect with one of these friggin' people? Not because of social reasons, just because they're just not on your level in terms of like, they got nothing to talk about. And you're like, I'm really lonely. That's why sometimes if you can be alone with yourself, you don't have to be lonely when you're alone. When you really like yourself, it's okay being alone. I spend a lot of time alone. I'm not going to lie. Not that I dislike people, but Hook was not his true name. To reveal who he really was would even at this date set the country in a blaze. But as those who read between the lines must already have guessed, he had been at a famous public school, and its traditions still clung to him like garments, with which indeed they are largely concerned. Thus it was offensive to him even now to board a ship in the same dress in which he grappled her, and he still adhered in his walk to the school's distinguished slouch. But above all, he retained a passion for good form. Good form! However much he may have degenerated, he still knew that this is all that really matters. We're going to find out a little bit about Hooky Hook. So he knows you have to be a nice person, but he's become a degenerate. Hello? That's their words, not mine, but truly he has. From far within him, he heard a creaking as of rusty portals, and through them came a stern tap, 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 like hammering in the night when one cannot sleep. Have you been good form today? Was their eternal question. Fame, fame, that glittering bauble, it is mine, he cried. Is it quite good form to be distinguished at anything? The tap, tap from his school replied. I am the only man whom Barbecue feared, he urged, and Flint feared Barbecue. Barbecue? Flint? What house? Came the cutting retort. Most disquieting reflection of all, was it not bad form to think about good form? Oh my God, this guy is torturing himself. Needs a therapist, needs a mother badly. He needs something happened at that school, and now he's having this inner battle of good and bad. You see, it's the light and the dark. We'll talk about that in the woo, but just think about that. This bastard, he's having his inner demons now. Okay? Yep. His vitals were tortured by this problem. It was a claw within him sharper than the iron one, and as it tore him, the perspiration dripped down his tallow countenance and streaked his doublet. Oft times he drew his sleeve across his face, but there was no damming that trickle. Ah, envy not Hook. There came to him a presentiment of his early dissolution. It was as if Peter's terrible oath had boarded the ship. Hook felt a gloomy desire to make his dying speech, lest presently there should be no time for it. Better for Hook, he cried, if he had had less ambition. It was in his darkest hours only that he referred to himself in the third person. Can you believe this shit? This guy is supposedly on the brink of his triumph. He's got it all, and now he's having a breakdown. That's all I'm saying. Keep that in mind, people. It's not all gold that glitters. No little children to love me. Who'd love you? Strange that he should think of this, which had never troubled him before. Perhaps the sewing machine brought it to his mind. For long he muttered to himself, staring at Smee, who was hemming placidly under the conviction that all children feared him. Feared him? Feared Smee? There was not a child on board the brig that night who did not already love him. He had said horrid things to them and hit him with the palm of his hand because he could not hit with his fist, but they had only clung to him the more. Michael had tried on his spectacles. To tell poor Smee that they thought him lovable, Hook itched to do it, but it seemed too brutal. Instead, he revolved this mystery in his mind. Why did they find Smee lovable? He pursued the problem like the sleuth hound that he was. If Smee was lovable, what was it that made him so? A terrible answer suddenly presented itself. Good form? Had the boatswain good form without knowing it? Which is the best form of all? That's true. It's like when you're a good person and you don't boast like you're so great. Like, I'm such a good person. I do this, I do this, I give this, I do this. But you just do it on the QT and you're just doing it because that's who you are inherently. That's the best kind of person. I have a friend like that. She's always helping people out. I think she's wonderful. And she's always donating her time. And she's always a good person. So, you know what? I don't think she realizes how good of a person she is. But she is. Think about those people. He remembered that you have to prove you don't know you have it before you are eligible for pop. With a cry of rage, he raised his iron hand over Smee's head. But he did not tear. What arrested him was this reflection. To claw a man because he is good form, what would that be? Bad form. The unhappy Hook was as impotent as he was damp, and he fell forward like a cut flower. His dogs thinking him out of the way for a time, discipline instantly relaxed, and they broke into a bacchanalian dance, which brought him to his feet at once, all traces of human weakness gone, as if a bucket of water had passed over him. Quiet, you scugs, he cried, or I'll cast anchor in you. And at once the din was hushed. Are all the children chained, so they cannot fly away? Aye, aye, then hoist them up. The wretched prisoners were dragged from the hold, all except Wendy, and ranged in line in front of him. For a time he seemed unconscious of their presence. He lolled at his ease, humming, not unmelodiously, snatches of a rude song, and fingering a pack of cards. Ever and anon the light from his cigar gave a touch of color to his face. His handsome face, his periwinkle blue eyes, and his dark jet-black hair that was long, flowing, like Fabio. I can't get over the handsomeness of Hook. Yikes. Now then, bullies, he said briskly, 6 of you walk the plank tonight, but I have room for 2 cabin boys. Which of you is it to be? Don't irritate him unnecessarily had been Wendy's instructions in the hold, so Toodles stepped forward politely. Toodles hated the idea of signing under such a man, but an instinct told him that it would be prudent to lay the responsibility on an absent person. And though a somewhat silly boy, he knew that mothers alone are always willing to be the buffer. All children know this about mothers and despise them for it, but make constant use of it. So Toodles explained prudently, "You see, sir, I don't think my mother would like me to be a pirate. Would your mother like you to be a pirate, Slightly?" He winked at Slightly, who said mournfully, "I don't think so, as if you wish things had been otherwise. Would your mother like you to be a pirate, Twin?" "I don't think so," said the first twin, as clever as the others. "Nibs, would you?" "Stow this gab," roared Hook, and the spokesmen were dragged back. "You boy," he said, addressing John, "you look as if you had a little pluck in you. Didst never want to be a pirate, my hearty?" Now John had sometimes experienced this hankering at maths prep, and he was struck by Hook's picking him out. "I once thought of calling myself Red-Handed Jack," he said diffidently. "And a good name, too. We'll call you that here, bully, if you join." "What do you think, Michael?" asked John. "What would you call me if I join?" Michael demanded. "Blackbeard Joe." Michael was naturally impressed. "What do you think, John?" He wanted John to decide, and John wanted him to decide. "Shall we still be respectful subjects of the king?" John inquired. Through Hook's teeth came the answer. "You would have to swear, 'Down with the king.'" Perhaps John had not behaved very well so far, but he shone out now. "Then I refuse," he cried, banging the barrel in front of Hook. "And I refuse," cried Michael. "Rule Britannia!" squeaked Curly. The infuriated pirates buffeted them in the mouth, and Hook roared out, "That seals your doom. Bring up their mother. Get the plank ready." They were only boys, and they went white as they saw Jukes and Checo preparing the fatal plank, but they tried to look brave when Wendy was brought up. No words of mine can tell you how Wendy despised those pirates. To the boys, there was at least some glamour in the pirate calling, but all that she saw was that ship had not been tidied for years. Here she goes, she wants to clean the ship. There was not a porthole on the grimy glass of which you might not have written with your finger, "Dirty Pig," and she had written it on several. But as the boys gathered round her, she had no thought, of course, save for them. "So, my beauty," said Hook, as if he spoke in syrup, "you ought to see your children walk the plank." Fine gentleman though he was, the intensity of his communings had soiled his ruff, and suddenly he knew that she was gazing at it. With a hasty gesture, he tried to hide it, but he was too late. "Oh my God, he truly is a gentleman, and his little ruffles are dirty." And Wendy's looking at it. I love it. She's like wanting to clean the damn hull. She wants to clean the portholes and everything. And he's worried about her looking at him. You see, he's got no confidence. This guy, oof, something happened to him. I want a whole book about him because he's handsome. Okay, enough about that. Like a Volt. Okay. "Are they to die?" asked Wendy with a look of such frightful contempt that he nearly fainted. "They are," he snarled. "Silence all," he called gloatingly, for a mother's last words to her children. At this moment, Wendy was grand. "These are my last words, dear boys," she said firmly. "I feel that I have a message to you from your real mothers, and it is this. We hope our sons will die like English gentlemen." Even the pirates were awed, and Toodles cried out hysterically, "I'm going to do what my mother hopes. What are you to do, Nibs?" "What my mother hopes." "What are you to do, Twin?" "What my mother hopes." "John, what are you?" But Hook had found his voice again. "Tie her up," he shouted. It was Smee who tied her to the mast. "See here, honey," he whispered, "I'll save you if you promise to be my mother." But not even for Smee would she make such a promise. "I would almost rather have no children at all," she cried disdainfully. It is sad to know that not a boy was looking at her as Smee tied her to the mast. The eyes of all were on the plank, the last little walk they were about to take. They were no longer able to hope that they would walk it manfully, for the capacity to think had gone from them. They could stare and shiver only. Hook smiled on them with his teeth closed and took a step toward Wendy. His intention was to turn her face so that she should see the boys walking the plank one by one. But he never reached her. He never heard the cry of anguish he hoped to wring from her. He heard something else instead. It was the terrible tick-tick of the crocodile. They all heard it. Pirates, boys, Wendy, and immediately every head was blown in one direction, not to the water whence the sound proceeded, but toward Hook. All knew that what was about to happen concerned him alone, and that from being actors they would suddenly become spectators. Very frightful was it to see the change that came over him. It was as if he had been clipped at every joint. He fell in a little heap. The sound came steadily nearer, and in advance of it came this ghastly thought: the crocodile is about to board the ship. Even the iron claw hung inactive, as if knowing that it was no intrinsic part of what the attacking force wanted. Left so fearfully alone, any other man would have lain with his eyes shut where he fell. But the gigantic brain of Hook was still working, and under its guidance he crawled on the knees along the deck as far from the sound as he could. The pirates respectfully cleared a passage for him, and it was only when he brought up against the bulwarks that he spoke. "Hide me!" he cried hoarsely. They gathered round him, all eyes averted from the thing that was coming aboard. They had no thought of fighting it. It was fate. Only when Hook was hidden from them did curiosity loosen the limbs of the boys so that they could rush to the ship's side to see the crocodile climbing it. They got the strangest surprise of the night of nights, for it was no crocodile that was coming to their aid. It was Peter. He signed to them not to give vent to any cry of admiration that might rouse suspicion. Then he went on ticking. Peter, you one smart little bastard. I mean, this kid knows how to get everybody out of some sort of pickle. You know what I'm saying? He knows how to get the boys out of walking out of the plank. He knows how to get Wendy out of that thing. And he knows how to get Hook. Okay, what is going on with Hook? My goodness, I know I keep bringing up his need for therapy, but you know what? His whole thing, like, Hook now is at this point in his life where he thought he's killed Peter, right? He's captured the boys. He's got Wendy. Everything looks like it's all roses, right? Everything looks like it's all glittering, and he's been successful in his feat. And yet, Hook is still miserable. Because you want to know what it comes down to? Inherently, he knows he's not a nice person, and he's grappling with his own set of morality, his ethics. And people, let's talk about this. You know that statement, I mentioned it earlier, all that glitters isn't gold. That's it. It's like anything else in life. Have you thought about something you wanted so badly and you would just do anything for it? And we talked about this in Alice in Wonderland. And you're like, when I get it, it's going to be the best thing ever in my life. And then you get it. And then you're just like, this is what I was working towards. This is what I built up in my mind. It's kind of like Hook. He's built this big thing in his mind, but because he's not right with himself, he's still not happy. And that's what I want to talk about. Thing is this, my friends. In life, it's finding that inner peace and happiness, and that's your choice. You find happiness within with who you are, living by your morality, set of code of ethics, your morality, who you are, standing in truth and authenticity, and not selling out or compromising what you believe in to get where you need to be. Because what happens, all the money, all the fame, all the material things that you accumulate in life mean nothing when you are dissatisfied with who you are as a person. Nothing can give you worth. Trust me. Nothing can give you the worth that is so important, which is self-worth. No amount of money, no amount of friends, no amount of anything external. The only way you have self-worth is believing in yourself and truly valuing the good qualities about yourself and sticking to them. Because I do believe a lot of times we compromise, not all of us, but some of us. Think about people you know, or if you've ever, think about the times you've compromised your belief system to either fit into a group, maybe when you were younger, right? You became friends with people because they were popular, but they picked on people and that didn't inherently feel good. You were like, that's not really nice. I'm not that person. But you hung out with them. Maybe you didn't pick on the people, but you still like gave in because, you just wanted to fit in. This is the same thing, my friends. It's like compromising yourself to be with the popular kids, or having that career, or having that amount of money, or having the dream job, and not really taking care of the things that you really need to feed, which is your soul essence, your spirit, who you really are. So I think it's really important to think about the times when either you felt like you sold out, or think about people you thought were sold out, and how, what makes you feel like, you know what, I stand in my truth, and what keep working on it. And that's the point. It's like when you stand in your truth and authenticity and realize, I'm not going to sell my soul to the devil or sell myself short just so I can get that job or so that I can do this. And I get it. Sometimes you got to compromise. And I'm not talking about compromise your morality, ethics. Compromising like, all right, maybe this is not the salary I wanted. We're not talking about that, my friends. We are talking about deep inherent qualities, things that are going to make you question who you are as a person. Because I'm telling you right now, we look at people that have it all. We think they have it all on the outside. And a lot of them don't sleep well. Now, I'm not saying everybody who has it all did terrible things to get there. Please, let's not, once again, I'm not saying that when you have a lot of money, because I do believe we all should enjoy the energy of financial gain and abundance and prosperity. But I do believe we can earn it by standing in our truth, following our passions, having our code of ethics, our morality, and not compromising who we are as a human being and what we stand for just to get where we need to go. Because you can also let's look at very famous people, or people that have been very successful, that stood their ground, that did not compromise who they were and still made it. One of my favorite people ever is Oprah. And when she got her first job, not first job, but her job they approached her to be that, to have her own talk show, that she said to them, listen, you can't change me. I'm going to look like this in terms of my weight and what have you. And the guy was like, no, I don't want to change you. I want you to be you. That's why I'm offering you. And they're like, you're never going to beat Donahue. They were just like thinking it was just going to be a talk show to go against Phil Donahue. I'm really dating myself. And guess what? She beat Phil Donahue. A lot of you were like, who's Phil Donahue? That's my point. But you do know who Oprah is. So the point is, think about people you admire. How do they get where they were? And then if there are people you admire and then you find out they got there because they did some shady shit, you might also want to reevaluate that too. But for your own growth, I would love for you to think of the qualities that you have, your code of ethics, your morality, and how you can have them. You stand so strong in them, but also claim that you too can, attract all the abundance, prosperity, good things, because you stand in your conviction. You stand in who you are. And also, once again, it comes down to self-love and self-worth, right? Once you get clear with who you are and you truly love yourself and you respect yourself and do the things that feed your soul and feed you as a person and honor yourself, what happens is you just vibrate. You consistently talk about this. Your frequency goes up. You emit this you emit this light, right? This glow. And what happens, things will start attracting to you. That, how they say like attracts like? It's like a magnet. You'll attract the wonderful things that you're supposed to attract. So if you're journaling, great. If not, no worries. But I'd like you to think about the times where if you've compromised who you were as a person to be a part of a group or for a job, and how you felt, or the times that you stood in your truth and you held to your conviction, and maybe you didn't become friends with the popular kids because you were like, screw them. Or you stood up for the person they were picking on and were like, no, that's not right. And even if you lost their friendship, you were just like, you're not friends anyway. Piss off. Peace out. You know what I mean? So these are things that I think we should all question, especially now. The thing is this, we're here to live an amazing life. And we're here to go on the journey of self-discovery and back to, self-love and self-worth, because it's already there for you. So it's just asking you to delve deeper into who you are and to celebrate the beautiful qualities you are, and know that you can choose. You can choose to stand strong in your faith in yourself and to trust yourself and believe in yourself, and know that you too will attract all the wonderful things that you put out. You will attract that. And to stand strong in who you are, remember, there's that saying that, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything, right? So it's like having convictions, like Martin Luther King Jr. I mean, come on. Martin Luther King, hello, he had a dream. That man, in a time, it's just, to me, that is the warrior spirit, and did it with peace and did it with light and love. And yes, I understand he was killed young, but He gave to the world what so many people never give to the world. So let's look at people from all parts of history that stood for their truth. And you want to know something? They stood in their truth because they knew who they were, and they believed. They had their code of ethics, and they had the morality, and they said, this is what I believe in, and this is what I spew, and this is how I stand, and that is enough. So with that, my friends, just a few things to think of, and please stand in your truth. Please know that you being your most authentic self and honoring yourself is the most beautiful thing you could do for yourself. And during this time of isolation or wherever you are right now on the journey of life, always know that you truly are one of a kind, wonderful, and you are magic if you so deem to use that magic. And that magic is your self-love and self-worth. Stop hating on yourself and start bringing out the good qualities and knowing that kindness and light and love and peace and joy and harmony and all that, if you bring that to the world, trust me, that's what the world will give back to you. And I understand the world is not always portraying that. But the thing is this, it's because we've allowed people that are in the darkness who don't have self-love and self-worth to outnumber the rest of the people that do have self-love. But if each and every one of us starts working on our self-love and self-worth quotient, I'm telling you, it's going to change things around. It takes time like everything else. Rome wasn't built in a day, right? Okay, so you weren't built in a day. And anyway, as I said in the last episode, we're always under construction. That doesn't mean we're in bad form, right? We are always in good form if we choose to be in good form and choose to celebrate and see the goodness of ourselves and find the good parts of ourselves and start, releasing the things that no longer serve us. Releasing any hate, anger, doubt, fear, worry, anxiety, anything that is putting you in a place of depression. And I'm not talking about depression when it's actually, clinical depression, okay? Not the same thing, but depressed about who you are, okay? You can flip that switch. You can flip that switch and you can choose to see the good in yourself first. Because once you see the good in yourself first and celebrate that, you will see good in others. And the world will reflect it back to you. So with that being said, I hope that this day finds you well. And I'm sending you so much light, love, peace, joy, and bliss. And knowing that you are magic. Bring the magic. Make it the most magical day ever. I don't know how. But you know what? It's the point of magic. Abracadabra. You never know what's going to happen. But put it out there. All right, people. Talk to you soon. Bye. Peace. Peace, love, and rock and roll. Yeah, I'm all shook up.